People who never cry are not automatically stronger, and psychology shows that what looks like control is often emotional shutdown learned over time, while crying easily can reflect a nervous system that is more responsive. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand how crying easily relates to empathy, emotional awareness, and long-term mental health, and what to do if this applies to you. If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, or that you cry too often, it's important to understand this clearly. For many people, crying is not a flaw, it is information. It reflects how the nervous system responds to emotional input. Many people grow up with a limited definition of strength. Strength is often described as staying composed, not reacting, and keeping emotions private. However, psychology has observed a different pattern over time. When emotions are consistently suppressed, they do not disappear. They are stored, and stored emotion often appears later as anxiety, irritability, emotional numbness, or sudden emotional reactions that feel difficult to explain. Here is an important point to keep in mind, and we will return to it later. Crying is not a loss of control. Crying is a regulation response. It is the body reducing emotional activation as it occurs, rather than holding it in. People who cry easily often have nervous systems that respond more quickly to emotional information. Their brains tend to identify emotional significance faster. This includes noticing tone changes, facial expressions, or emotional tension in a situation earlier than others. When that information is processed, the body responds. Tears are part of that response. To make this clearer, consider a simple example. Two people watch the same emotional scene in a movie. One experiences emotion without visible tears. The other notices physical signs like throat tightness and tears shortly after. The difference is not weakness. The difference is how quickly and how thoroughly emotional information is processed. One system filters more. The other filters less. This is where misunderstanding often occurs. Emotional filtering is often interpreted as maturity, but excessive filtering can become emotional shutdown. Many people who rarely cry learned early in life that expressing emotion was discouraged or unsafe. Emotions may have been ignored, criticized, or unmet. As a result, the brain adapted by reducing emotional awareness. That adaptation can appear functional, but it often involves emotional disconnection, difficulty identifying feelings, or challenges with emotional closeness. This does not mean something is wrong with those individuals. It means their system learned a different way to cope. If this perspective is already changing how you think about emotional expression, stay until the end, because later we'll connect crying easily with emotional awareness and discuss what helps sensitive people function well without becoming overwhelmed. Now, let's discuss empathy. People who cry easily are often more empathic. Empathy is not just caring about others. It is the ability to register and respond to another person's emotional state. When someone else is distressed, the nervous system may reflect that distress. This explains why stories involving sadness, unfairness, or kindness can lead to tears. This response is supported by research. Brain regions associated with empathy and emotional awareness tend to show greater activity in sensitive individuals. This means emotional information from the environment is being processed more thoroughly. The same sensitivity associated with crying also supports social understanding, moral reasoning, creativity, and intuition. Many sensitive individuals perform well in roles that involve listening, teaching, caregiving, or creative work because they process emotional information carefully. However, sensitivity without understanding can become difficult to manage. people may start questioning themselves, wondering why they react strongly or why they cannot respond differently. The issue is often not sensitivity itself, but trying to function as if that sensitivity does not exist. If this explanation is helpful and you're interested in psychology and self-improvement content that focuses on understanding yourself and others on a much deeper level, then consider clicking the subscribe button. Now let's move to practical application. A common misunderstanding is equating emotional expression with emotional instability. Crying easily does not mean a person lacks emotional regulation. In many cases, it means regulation is happening automatically. The emotional response occurs, the activation reduces, and afterward, there is a return toward balance. In contrast, suppression blocks that process. When emotion is blocked, it accumulates. Over time, this can show up as chronic stress, physical tension, or emotional detachment. So a more useful question than "why do I cry so much?" is, do I return to baseline after I cry? Recovery is a key indicator of emotional health. Experiencing emotion and then stabilizing is generally healthier than avoiding emotion and carrying it long term. A simple way to reflect is this: after crying, do you feel calmer or more clear? If yes, the emotional system is functioning effectively. If crying leads to extended self-criticism or repetitive thinking, the issue is not the crying itself, but how the experience is interpreted afterward. This leads to the importance of boundaries. For highly sensitive people, boundaries are necessary. Sensitivity without boundaries often results in fatigue. Sensitivity with boundaries allows emotional awareness to remain useful. Boundaries can include taking breaks from overstimulation, limiting emotionally intense input, or distancing from people who consistently offload emotions without consideration. Supporting the nervous system is more effective than trying to reduce sensitivity. Another helpful adjustment involves language. The way emotional responses are described affects how they are processed. Viewing tears as weakness increases stress. Viewing them as information reduces internal conflict. For example, saying, "I shouldn't react like this," increases pressure. Saying, "This situation affected me emotionally," allows the response to resolve more easily. This applies across genders. Many men are taught to avoid emotional expression. This often results in suppression rather than regulation. Emotional awareness supports psychological well-being regardless of gender. Before concluding, here are 3 practical reminders for people who cry easily. First, allow the emotional response without immediately trying to stop it. Emotional responses often resolve more efficiently when they are not resisted. Second, monitor physical and environmental factors. Lack of sleep, hunger, and overstimulation increase emotional reactivity. Third, reflect after the response passes. Consider what triggered it and whether it connects to a value, expectation, or unmet need. Crying easily does not indicate a deficiency. It often reflects a responsive emotional system. Emotional strength is not defined by how little emotion is felt. It is defined by the ability to experience emotion and return to balance. If this video helped you understand your emotional responses more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who has been labeled too sensitive. And if you want more psychology and self-improvement content that explains human behavior in a practical and grounded way, then subscribe to the channel. Sensitivity is not something to eliminate. It is something to understand, support, and use effectively.